Chris Mannix covers the NBA, senior NBA writer from Sports Illustrated. His most recent column in SI. Finally, the NBA has a format. Now the real work begins. Chris, good morning. How are you?
What's going on, Dan?
Well, I'm trying to figure this Nets situation out. I've always felt, everything I've read is that Durant would not be coming back. We'll start there. Do you think Durant is going to be coming back?
I don't, and I think it would take an incredible reversal of direction for Durant to come back. I've talked to people about this within the Nets organization. I've talked to Rich Kleiman, Durant's manager, and every conversation I've had has not left me feeling like the door was even open for something like this to happen. I mean, if it was a shoulder injury or a Steph Curry-like broken hand, you can have a different conversation. But you're talking about the most significant injury an NBA player could have, and then taking that player and dropping him after 7-8 regular season games and a 3-week training camp into the most intense atmosphere an NBA player can go through. And, all I think about when, thinking of that scenario is, didn't we just do that with Kevin Durant? Like, didn't he just deal with a major injury to his calf, come back, and then in one game pop his Achilles? I mean, the Nets have a 4-year investment in Kevin Durant. Even if he came back, I wouldn't make the Nets a favorite. You don't come back from an Achilles injury and look like the same player you once were. So what is the point in rolling him back out there in a truncated season, postseason, just to roll the dice and hope you catch lightning in a bottle? No, it's going to be an incredibly long layoff for Kevin Durant once the next season starts. But the risk to me, Dan, and I think for the Nets and Kevin Durant, is not worth the reward.
Given the fact that we have, a smaller postseason, 8 games regular season going in, give me one or two teams that you think, and with no home court advantage, that this team might play the role of spoiler either in the East or the West.
Well, to me, it's Philadelphia in the East. And, the Sixers had plenty of problems this year, even before, Ben Simmons went down with that injury. But Ben Simmons is coming back. And, we always thought when it came to the Sixers that a defensive-minded team that doesn't rely on the three-point shot might have a shot in the postseason, not an up-tempo, necessarily high-volume three-point shooting team. Like, these playoffs almost are built for a team like Philadelphia. Like, when you have teams coming back, you're just not going to be able to get your skills sharp enough to be the kind of perimeter shooting team that you were prior to this. A lot of these players have not been even doing much in the way of one-on-one work. Some of them haven't even been shooting for the better part of the last couple of months. So you're going to see a lot of college basketball-like shooting numbers, I think, in the regular season and in the postseason. If you're Philadelphia, you don't shoot threes. You don't care. You are a defensive team. You want to play 90s style basketball where games are in the 80s and 90s. So I look at the Sixers. Their chemistry is always an issue, but from a talent perspective, this might be perfect for them. Like, they could wind up being a team that not only wins the first round series, but they could make a run all the way to the finals. Like, I think that this is just one of those weird scenarios that sets up really well for Philadelphia.
Wait, are you doing this because McLovin is so excited? What, McLovin?
I told you, and I take it back. I said, don't book Mannix today, and now I think it totally paid off.
Book Mannix. Thank you, Perloff. I appreciate that.
Is it fair to the Lakers and Bucks that there is no home court advantage for these two teams, considering what they did during the regular season? There was no way to give them something for what they did during the regular season.
No, it's not fair. But life's not fair. I mean, it's the way it goes in the current climate. And there were all these suggestions. You read about some of them. There were even more from the people I've talked to about finding ways to give teams that had home court advantage, whether it's an extra possession or little things like that. But what you heard Adam Silver say last night lines up with some of the stuff I've been writing for the last couple of weeks. The NBA badly wants to protect the integrity of the playoffs. And Michael Jordan said this to Adam Silver, and Adam Silver has believed this all along. you don't want to screw around with gimmicky stuff once you get to the playoffs because that threatens the credibility of the champion. So if you want to, I don't even know if it's possible, but if you want to find a way of shipping the Laker floor to Orlando and playing games on it, great. Like, do that. But that is as far as it goes when it comes to giving them an advantage.
I don't know if it's the floor as much as it is the fans that you need to ship to give these teams their home court advantage. How about you just send Jack Nicholson and a fan to be named later?
I mean, I'm all for sending, like, the super fan of every team down there. Like, Clipper Darrell, you know, in the stands can – I mean, imagine how his voice would echo in an empty arena. Like, send somebody, you know, for each team. But this is just – I mean, you know this, man. This is just the way that it goes. Like, you know, this is the best of a bad situation. There's no way to fix it or to make it any more palatable. So teams are going to have to deal with the consequences.
Talking to Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated, senior NBA writer. How is the NBA going to issue press credentials? How do people get in to cover? And do we have broadcast teams who are going to be able to cover this?
You know, I know for a fact it's still being negotiated right now as far as what kind of press access there's going to be. I mean, I would imagine that if you want to cover the playoffs in its entirety, you've got to put yourself in that bubble, and you have got to agree to effectively quarantine yourself for 3 months. And that's, you know, difficult for a lot of people to do. I mean, maybe not so much for me. I have no life whatsoever. But, you know, for a lot of people, you know, you have families, you have reasons to be in and out of there. So I think that is going to be a challenge. There's a lot of interest from a print media perspective in being part of covering it, but the NBA is understandably leery about letting people come in and out. The question of broadcasting, I don't know if that's been fully resolved yet, but people I've talked to have been under the impression that many of these broadcasts will take place remotely, whether it's from Bristol or, you know, Atlanta for Turner. You know, I think that certainly is a fluid situation right now, but, you know, over the last couple of weeks, that was what I was hearing when it came to how games will be broadcast during all this.
Yeah, I think it'll be via remote for the national broadcast and even local broadcast. The NBA season, if there's a Game 7, would end on that Monday night in mid-October, and then there's a quick turnaround, and the commissioner talking about starting the 2021 season on December 1st. Seems aggressive. Why start December 1st with games? Why not wait till Christmas?
Well, starting December 1st is all about finishing like end of June. You know, it's all about trying to recalibrate the schedule in one season. Like they as of now, they don't want to play into next summer. So if you start December 1st, you might have to sandwich some games closer, you know, do some things you don't necessarily want to do with spacing. But you can get back on a regular calendar. I think it's a mistake, and I think it's one that, as you saw, Michelle Roberts has already commented on this. Like, you're going to have a union problem with negotiating that type of quick turnaround. But I think the NBA's got an opportunity here, Dan, to start the season on Christmas when most people start caring about basketball anyway. So you use that as your launching point, and then play into the summer on a regular schedule. Try to get some valuable data to see if summer basketball actually works, if the ratings go up, if getting away from the NFL actually makes some sense. If it doesn't and your ratings plummet for 1 year, okay, end of August, which is when a December start would probably put you, you can find a way to get back on track in the 2021-2022 season. But right now, I think this is a golden opportunity for the league to do what a lot of people internally already want to do, and something they can chalk up to the pandemic. And that doesn't even include the fact that it's good business to push even further down the line to get fans potentially back in the stands for next season.
Who's your prediction?
Well, I started this whole year saying the Lakers wouldn't make the playoffs, or at least would be more likely than not to not make the playoffs. So I'm going to take the Lakers to win the whole thing. Let's just do a complete 180. But I'll tell you, Dan, I am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Lakers-Sixers in the finals.
Okay. You're not picking your Celtics, huh?
I look at the Celtics, and I look at the Bucks, and I look at how reliant they are on the three-point shot. Like, that to me is a big variable in all this. Like, how are these guys – what kind of skills are these guys going to have when this game comes back? Like, the Bucks, Giannis doesn't shoot threes, but everybody else does. Like, that's a five-out team. Like, they want everybody else but Giannis behind the three-point line launching. And if you're missing a lot, and that leads to – like, what do the Sixers do well? They force misses, and they play up and down in transition. They don't shoot threes. They don't even shoot long twos well. But they get up and down in transition and create opportunities, and that's why I think Philadelphia, if Simmons is well and their acts together, I think they could make a run.
Did you care about the CBS poll about the greatest shooters of all time?
I mean, not really. It's obviously subjective, so I mean, I don't even know who's on the list at this point.
Well, it was. Let's see. Klay Thompson. Steph was number one. Klay Thompson, I think, was two. Bird was in there. Reggie Miller in there. Ray Allen was in there. And probably Kevin Durant was in there.
It's like types of shooters, though, right? Like, Steph Curry, like, greatest off the dribble 3-point shooter I've ever seen. Ray Allen, maybe the best standalone 3-point shooter I've ever seen. What Reggie could do, like, in clutch moments, and the best of both worlds in that way. It's just, you almost have to break it down into silos and say, here's the best this type of 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I know it's meant to have us get riled up and argue, and nobody's arguing with Steph Curry. Klay Thompson might be a little recency biased. He's a wonderful shooter. How did everybody miss on Klay Thompson when he was at Washington State?
It's a good question. I don't think they saw him as being like he was a very good defender, a very good 3-point shooter. But I think if I think back to what was going on back then, I think they saw him more as one-dimensional. I don't think they saw him being and becoming the complete player that he was. I mean, he was still a lottery pick. Like, he was still a well-regarded player. But I don't think they saw the diversity of the skills that Klay Thompson has shown in his time as a pro.
I remember Mark Jackson, the former Golden State head coach, we had a private conversation, and this is when they were thinking about Kevin Love for Klay Thompson, straight up.
Yeah.
And I said, man, that gives you a whole different look. He can shoot threes, he can rebound. He goes, Klay Thompson is the best two-way guard in the NBA. And I went, really? He goes, in my opinion, he goes, we would never even consider that trade.
Yeah, they really didn't either on Golden State's side. It's been documented well over the years, but they didn't really give that more than enough thought. I mean, again, you see guys be great defensive players in college. I don't think anyone saw Klay becoming the stopper that he became in the pros. But there's so many, almost. How about Kevin Love for O.J. Mayo happening? That to me stands for one of the most lopsided deals in draft history.
Yep. I was right there. Paulie and I were arguing, and I said, Kevin Love ceiling 15-8. O.J. Mayo might be a guy who can get you 20, 25. Play some defense, and that didn't go well.
I hate to say it, Dan, but I was kind of having the same argument you were at the time, like more towards Mayo. You have to remember too that Kevin Love back then was like doughy, like he just didn't look like he didn't have an NBA body, and there were people at the time that I had one team expressed to me they thought Kevin Love might have an eating disorder, like that he'd never. Be able to develop the kind of body that he has developed that made him a great NBA player. So credit to Kevin Love for turning his entire physique around in the NBA.
And O.J. Mayo averaged 19 his rookie year. He was first-team all-rookie. But Kevin Love improved himself. He got better. The fact that he put in a 30-30 night, man.
You just never know, Dan, what – you can tell, it's so hard to tell work ethics on 18-year-olds, right? You can see them doing stuff, in high school and in college. You can talk to their coaches, but until you get them in the gym for year one, you don't know what their dedication is going to be. And that's one of the most difficult parts of scouting players. You can see the talent and try to project out the talent, but did you know that Kevin Love was going to become this workaholic that would, turn his body into one of the better NBA physiques and turn himself into one of the better front court 3-point shooters? I mean, he put the time in, and you can't really project that when a guy's that young.
Thank you, Chris. Enjoy the weekend. We appreciate your time as always.
You guys, Dan.
That's Chris Mannix. Sports Illustrated, NBA senior writer.